Hello, hello. Say when?
We are live, I believe.
Like we say in tennis, time.
Time.
Okay. So, good afternoon to all of you, wherever you are. My name is Gonçalo Xavier. I'm the general manager of APED, the Association of Portuguese Retail Companies. And I'm here together with my good friend, Ignacio García, also General Director at ASEDAS. And it's our pleasure to welcome you to this webinar organized together with the LTPlabs. This is the new normal. This is an opportunity to share knowledge and to interact with people from different parts of the world. I'm in Lisbon. Ignacio Garcia is in Madrid. I believe Miguel and Teresa with us they are in Porto. And I salute you all and thank you for coming to this webinar. We will cover in this webinar analytics in retail. So it's no surprise that why me and Ignacio are the moderators. We lead the two associations that represent the retail in Portugal and Spain. And of course, we are living interesting times since March, also before March, but especially since March, we are living interesting times that call for action and called for another approach and another vision for the retail and for the process. And that's why we decided to accept the invitation of LTPlabs. It's more than an invitation, it was a challenge to talk about accelerating analytics to improve retail performance. The fact is that we are having every day new challenges, new approaches, new legal decisions, new impacts on the consumers, new impacts on our companies. And therefore, it's also very, very important to use the right tools and to have the right approach in order to take the good decisions. That's why I'm very glad that we have here today two high-level speakers, Teresa Bianchi de Aguiar and Miguel Seixas. And of course, I salute them and I thank them for being here with us. Just in a nutshell, Teresa Bianchi de Aguiar, she has a PhD in industrial engineering. And of course, she has been working for 5 years at LTPlabs with a huge experience in managing consulting projects and developing decision support systems to solve complex business problems. Of course, she has a very interesting background in other industries. And she's also a part of her life is also related to academia, with all the good things that ASET represents. So with a lot of knowledge. On the other hand, we have Miguel Seixas, also let me say a close friend. And Miguel dedicated part of his career to the retail sector at Sonai for more than 25 years. And of course, Miguel had the privilege to be appointed to important roles from operations to commercial, from marketing to internationalization. He now is the co-founder and partner of an agency and trading company, Case Consulting, that is specialized in international trading. Of course, his background in academia as a management degree from Universidade Católica in Portugal, and MBA from Porto Business School. So I think if we have the right ingredients and the right persons to tell us, to give us good insights. Ignacio, feel free to interrupt me and to add your value and inputs whenever you want. We will let me some practical things for the beginning. The audience will have time for questions in the end, and you may use the chat in Zoom. And also, please bear in mind that this webinar is being recorded. Can I ask you to present the first slide? We have a presentation that is going to be performed by Teresa and Miguel, of course, but they gave me the privilege to me and to Ignacio to say something about the first slide. Of course, when we, like I mentioned, we are living difficult times, and we believe that when we discuss the future of retail industry, there is a common success factor that consistently appears among several studies. We see studies from McKinsey, from Forbes, and from BCG, and when we speak about retail trends, data analytics is also always something that must be in our mindset. Is this rocket science? Is this expensive? Is this an investment? Is this something that we can use in no matter the dimension of our company? These are probably some questions that are going to be raised in the next 60 minutes. We will do our best to be accurate with the time, but under these circumstances, I have to give the floor to Teresa and Miguel, and I wish you a very good presentation, and feel free to interact anytime. Ignacio, I don't know if you want to say some words, but feel free.
Just 2 words, if you allow me. First, to salute everybody, to say that I'm very pleased and honored to be here. It's the first joint seminar between APED and ASEDAS, Portugal and Spain. And I just want to add that we all share that we are very, very proud about what our sector is doing for society under these dramatic circumstances. Both in Portugal, in Spain, and many other places, we have seen how retail sector, especially food retail, has been in the first line to serve society in very, very difficult moments. So now perhaps for us, it's time to think about those entrepreneurs, those companies that need help to adapt themselves to the new normality, to the future, and to make sustainable their business, because they are serving like no one, and never ever before the society is perceiving the need for a very efficient retail throughout the world. So thank you to LTP for giving us this opportunity, and I'm very, very excited to hear your ideas and your images of the new normality and the future of our sector. Thank you very much.
Perfect.
Thank you, Ignacio. Thank you, Gonçalo, for your kind words. Good afternoon, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here. It's an honor to be an external advisor of LTP, a state-of-the-art company in the area of data analytics. And I would like also to thank ASEDAS and APED for helping us preparing this webinar, and that I believe it could be interesting to everyone that is assisting. The strategic position that any retailer has in the consumption value chain gives them the biggest asset that nowadays anyone can have and could fight for, the access to the information. The close relationship that all the retailers establish with its customers allows it to generate a totally massive and granular level of information. Most companies presented here in this webinar are retailers and have the basis of their business materialized in transactions of physical goods. But the truth is that today we know and we follow the evolution of the value of companies whose only asset is information. So if there are companies that the only value is information, imagine that we retailers, how can we accelerate our performance if we work based on the data that we and the information that we have. So the main objective of this webinar is to demonstrate using non-futuristic theories, as Gonçalo said, non-futuristic theories, but using very concrete situations, how does a retailer could improve their performance by placing a layer of analysis on top of something that they already have, that is, as I told you, the data. We can, and we must look at this webinar in two visions. The two visions that are always present in the mindset of a retailer. A vision focus on sales growth and margins, that is how to improve the top line, and also a vision aimed at improving efficiency, that is the component of costs. Both individually or together allow the achievement of what, as I told, any manager would like to improve, that is the bottom line. Looking at this slide and regarding the specific data, we don't need to create anything specific to collect it. Most of the data already exists in-house, in the retail house, and maybe those that seems obvious to us in the first approach, the transaction and the financial data. But, and if we look at the other two circles, we can be more ambitious and gather external data that could be linked to the company as being data on customer behavior, or going to a third, even a third level of distance and fetching data from competitors, other companies, or external or even external events. The beauty of business analytics, as we can see in the next slide, is the knowledge that working with the data, we can have relevant information for our business, being able to define the level of depth in which we want to work. It can go from essentially descriptive objectives that will serve merely to monitor the business, something merely information driven, to a deeper level, and that demands more maturity from organizations, which is the prescriptive level. As you can see here, the third square, the prescriptive level, where the information after entering the data analytics will suggest a decision that is designed as optimal. In these cases, we face an optimization-driven approach. As you can see here on these slides, the most incipient level will tell us what has happened. It's like looking at the rear view mirror in the car. Next, we have the diagnostic level, which intends to explain why did it happen, meaning which were the drivers that led us to a certain result. And then, in a more advanced level of analytics, we have the prescriptive level, which basically is based on design of multivariable scenarios. What will happen, for example, in sales, if we manipulate the discount level, and we have the most advanced level of the analytics that allows to answer about the future. What should we do? We know, and often the truth is that the organization needs to guarantee the effectiveness of all these things work around data analytics. So thus, to guarantee that, it's true, very important that in certain situations it's necessary to change mentality within the organization, and consequently, we have to go to a higher level that we call the transformation analytics. In this stage here, in this slide, sorry, here, you can see an example of trade promotions. I will not go deep on the slide because after on the examples, we will see some of these, but any of these types of analytics can answer different answers that we as retailers always have. On the next slide,
let me say something in between. Do you think? I mean, you are giving us a very interesting perspective. From your experience, do you think that most of the current retailers are not using this information properly? Can you have this in your mindsets while you are presenting? Thank you.
For sure, they can improve. That is for sure, because the beauty of data analytics is that we always can improve and can do better, because it's very dynamic. So I know that a lot of retailers use a level less mature as descriptive analytics, and I think that all retailers use it for most part of the, for instance, the promotions here. So they know much they spend, how much they invest, what was the effectiveness of the promotion. But I doubt that all the, well, I'm sure that not all the retailers use, for instance, prescriptive analytics that will join different kinds of data, not only the internal data, as we saw on the previous slide, but can draw the optimal guideline to optimize the return on investment. So, and can answer what should we do on our next promotion. So it could be the data analytics that answers what should be our next promotion, and not what has to be because we decided to, because in the past we did something that went well. So I think that different retailers have different maturity, different companies have different maturity, so different can go to a different level of the analytics. But one thing, and one thing it's important, is that the challenge of the retailers are common. So, and I choose these 5 challenges here on the left side of this slide. We have like a huge pressure of return on investment to the investments and decisions on investments that we made in more fixed assets, such as real estate. The need to realign the pricing and promotion dynamics, optimizing the P&L and not jeopardizing the turnover. The need to balance stock on the entire supply chain, ensuring freshness of products, less investment, but at the same time avoiding out of stocks. The need to reduce operating costs, but at the same time to guarantee excellent shopping experiences. And of course, the need to balance the online and offline worlds. If I truly believe that 5 challenges are on the head as concerns on the head of any retailer. And based on the challenge, whose response to them hands to the end of the day to improve the bottom line, that is always the objective that everyone has. Today in this webinar, we will address this in 3 essential axes that are essential in a retail organization: the consumer, the excelling the store operations, and the supply chain. Through these 3 axes, we will try to show how data-driven state-of-the-art techniques answer main points and concerns present in the mind of each retail manager. We believe that going through these three different axes we can do. We will start, of course, because we are retailers, we will start with the consumer axis. So it's the biggest asset of a retailer. Because any decision-making process must have the customer as the center. For the reason we choose this axis to present the first examples. We all know that customers' behavior influences the performance, and that is why we must adjust our offer of products and services according to the behavior we want to generate, we want to guarantee. Saying that, I will give the floor to Teresa that go through the knowing the consumer axis and some examples of this journey.
Well done, Miguel. Obrigado.
Thank you, Miguel. Good
afternoon. I hope I answer your question about the level of maturity in retail. Okay.
So good afternoon to all the participants and also to my fellow speaker and moderators. So let me start by showing to you the typical customer journey that starts with the awareness stage, where we capture potential customers' attention with advertisements. Then we go to consideration, where products and services assume here a huge importance, purchasing, fulfillment, and finishing with retention, where brand loyalty is a huge step in the process. So all these steps have in common the fact that they all benefit from data-driven approaches, such as, for instance, in the awareness stage, where we want to define how to allocate a specific budget to the different channels that are available, which brings additional complexity if we consider the digital world and the digital advertisement that is now increasing more and more. Or, for instance, if we look into consideration where we want to decide what products and services should we offer to customers and at what price. So all of these challenges here and the others that I did not mention have in common the need to focus on the customer and their behavior and the need to differentiate between individuals. And we do it by segmentation. So segmentation empowers retailers with the possibility to tailor their approach to each customer group. But nevertheless, as we are becoming more and more digital, and with the rise of e-commerce and even omnichannel approaches, companies are start talking more about personalization rather than segmentation. And they consider customer preferences on a much more individual level, which is possible because of digital. So, for instance, behavior analysis is a data analytics approach that, besides using classical factors such as recency, frequency of purchase, or even monetary value, it also considers factors that allow us to understand customer behavior, such as demographics, geographic spread, tastes, preferences, and many other information that we can grab digitally. So I would like to give you some examples of how using customer information and behaviors can indeed help in these decisions. And for that, I will mention two different examples. I will start by talking about assortment planning. By that I mean what products should you have in each store, and then I will also talk about targeted marketing, and I will try to explain an approach of how we should allocate different offers to different customers. So starting with assortment planning, our approach to define assortment always starts with the stores. So we look into past data, looking into the different customer baskets, and our objective starts by clustering stores based on their profile. But we do not do it based on the space available in each store. We do it considering the types of customers that each store has to make sure that within each store profile, we have stores that indeed should have similar assortments. Afterwards, in the second stage, we do SKU ranking, where we identify the order in which products should appear in the assortment. In here, we take into consideration not the space again, but the incremental sales and revenue that each product can bring, and obviously taking into consideration the cannibalization that each product may bring from previous products that already entered in the assortment. Only in the third stage we consider space, and by looking into the ranking and the space available in each store, we decide which products we should have in each store. So in this methodology that I have described, besides using customer information for clustering stores in different profiles, we also use customers' data for generating the SKU rankings. And for that, we use an attribute-based demand model that I would like to highlight three main characteristics that explain how we use past information. So firstly, we want to understand what are the customer's preferences concerning the SKUs, but instead of doing it considering past products available in the stores, we associate attributes to each product to make sure that in the future we can associate customer preferences to other products that have not been sold before based on the attributes that those products may have. Secondly, we also considered, again, based on past sales, the substitution probability that products may have. For that, we look into the preferred products of each customer. We looked to the substitution that each customer does when the product is not available, and we identify the probability of switching to a different existing product or the probability of not switching at all and not buying. Then, thirdly, I would like to talk about the preference-based demand model that results from this information, where for any assortment, we define the expected outcome in terms of sales, considering not only new products that are not available in the store, but also the information that I previously told about lost sales and also substitution to sales to other products. So we applied this methodology in an electronic retailers that wanted to shift its process from a manual and empirical one to a more advanced process. We developed a web-based platform, which we called RAW, that you can see here an image on the slide. And the RAW was based in 3 main axes. So besides customer information that I have already mentioned, we also targeted the business rules that the company have, for instance, coming from agreements with suppliers that needed to be fulfilled. And also we considered the stock available to make sure that our assortment was adjusted to the stock available at each moment, and also ensuring that we did not have highly volatile assortments resulting in high quantity of stock in the end. So this example was a success one. The application is being used nowadays, and I would like also to mention the importance of change management in these types of process. The second example that I bring here addresses targeted marketing. So to set up a customized offer to each customer, we generally follow a 4-step roadmap. So after segmentation that I have already mentioned before, we have the stage of scoring, where we associate an affinity to each customer and each offer. So after associating this affinity, we enter in the process of allocating these offers to the customers so that we can maximize the return of those offers. We call it here the next best offer, and our objective may vary depending on the customer. For instance, if we are talking about a customer with a high probability of churn, our objective concerns the retainment of that customer, but if the customer is a loyalty one, then the strategy may be a different one. So this roadmap may be applied to different challenges, from outbound initiatives when we consider, for instance, contact centers, but also to targeted promotional campaign design. And the example that I bring here is related with a food retailer that has a royalty problem covering over 3 million households, and this retailer periodically distributes promotional coupons to its customers. So we have developed a tailored coupon distribution algorithm for the company, whose objective was to automatically allocate given offers to clients by exploring the millions and millions of alternatives that result from the combination of all the offers to all the customers. We do that to maximize the redemption rate from those coupons, but also ensure predefined business rules and also the client strategy. Concerning the client strategy, as you may see here on the left-hand side, depending on the segmentation, the objective may change between cross-selling, for instance, if we are talking about occasional clients, or reward if we are talking about loyalty clients. So offers may change also depending on the objective. So as a result, besides bringing solutions with more value by matching customer preferences, this optimization model also allowed the company to significantly reduce the time spent planning these campaigns. We are talking about a change from roughly 1 week to 1 day. So Miguel.
Yeah, now we'll go to the axis of store operations, but just let me say that these 2 examples that you bring on the consumer can give us an idea, and answering a little to the question that Gonçalo asked, can go for different maturity of retailers. It means that on the second example, you have to be very mature in terms of data analytics go to this type of personalization, because you have to have real data from any customer. But the other one, it could be done through customer researches, through evaluating other data, because it will give us, because it's important to define the assortment that goes to each store. So I think that this example gives two different levels of deepness in terms of analytics, but always using the prescriptive analytics. So it says what we should do, but with different levels of data. So it's very interesting that we choose these two examples, and you put that question.
But always focusing on customer behavior and how we can leverage that information. Yes.
Yeah, that's it. Excelling the store operation axis, we approach the store and its operation while keeping customers at the center of the analysis. In other words, we analyze store processes where we seek efficiency, as obviously, but always balanced by the level of service we want to offer to the customer. So Teresa, if you don't mind, you can go through the store operations, but always having in mind the customer as usual for that analytics.
Always. So let me start by presenting you here in the right-hand side the dimensions that we bring concerning store efficiency. So we divided it in 5 dimensions. We are talking about the quality of service, for instance, concerning the workforce planning. Secondly, considering the replenishment for ensuring product availability. We also have problems concerning shelf space to ensure that products are in places that can maximize the value that we can bring to the customer and to the retailer. But also we can talk about other problems that are not here. For instance, how we need to change the assortment and the pricing along the way. But it is also important to bear in mind that we are in a reality nowadays where we are not talking about only in physical stores, but also as in omnichannel environments where the store is the last step of a process. And in that way, we should always consider the store with other dimensions, as I put here, such as the delivery, because we want to obtain high quality considering the e-commerce delivery, and also other dimensions such as extended product assortment, product consulting, and other types of services that may bring this omnichannel orchestration that I was talking about. So all of these have in common that analytics can help bringing more efficiency, and also that technology can help in this process by acquiring additional data and providing additional services that can increase the quality level. In here, in store efficiency, there are mainly 2 messages that I would like to pass to our participants. The first one is concerned with store efficiency. That is important to have in mind that when we are dealing with efficiency, we are always working in a trade-off between efficiency with value proposition, which sometimes requires a fine alignment between operations and also the commercial departments. If you look here into the left-hand side of the slide, we see here that trade-off between service level that represents the value proposition and the operational costs that represents the efficiency. So we see that the more service level we want to provide to the customer, the higher the costs that we will occur. So when applying analytics, we start by changing the initial situation from an inefficient one to the level, to the efficient curve, where we ensure that for determined service level, we are actually experiencing the least possible operational costs. But then in the end, most of the times, the greatest benefit that we can have is by exploring the place in this efficiency curve that we want to be, because sometimes by slightly decrease service level, we can have a huge impact on operational costs, and the other way around. By slightly increase operational costs, we can also increase service level in a way that is beneficial to the customers. So here is an example just to explain this trade-off in replenishment, more precisely in fresh products. So in our algorithms that deal with replenishment, for a determined target service level defined by the retailer, we determine the necessary amount of stock that will ensure that same target level. But the target level that was defined by the retailer will result in spoilage in some cases, and also in lack of visibility in other and stock outs depending on the target service level. So it is also important to analyze the trade-off by experiencing different target levels and check the resulting operational costs that are obtained. So the second message that I would like to pass is related with the need to make sure that decisions are taken holistically, assessing the overall impact of the KPIs of the business. For the most complex and integrated decisions, and especially the ones where trial and error are not possible because they carry expensive costs, developing a digital twin may actually be the answer. So a digital twin is a virtual representation of the store, where we present not only the store's layout, but also the processes that occur, and also the customer's behavior within the store, since they enter until they purchase the products. So this way, we may test alternative settings, not only concerning the store layout, but also the decisions that we may take to run the operations of the stores. For digital twins, the characterization process is highly important to make sure that at each time we are developing a digital reality that actually resembles the real one. And for that, we usually run, let's say, 1 year of operation. We collect KPIs, and firstly, we make sure that those KPIs are similar to the ones that were obtained during that year. Only when that occurs, we are in a position that we can test alternative settings and assess its impact. So let us see as an example to make sure that everybody grasps what is a digital twin. And for that, I bring an example concerning the checkouts of the stores. So I will start passing the video of our digital twin. And let me explain that choosing the number of checkouts is not a trivial decision, because checkouts, the needs for checkouts change along the time, depending not only of the hour of the day, but also of the day and also on the month. And more importantly, it also at each moment we can also decide how many checkouts we want to open. So this is a very complex decision that we can take by developing a digital twin like the one that we have seen here on the right-hand side. But the real benefit that we obtain does not rely on being able to see this operation as we see here, but on the KPIs that we can actually extract from running a period of time. For instance, on the right-hand side of this slide, we can see the number of necessary checkouts on each hour that we obtained during 1 year of operation by running this digital twin. So what we wanted to obtain with this graph was how the number of checkouts changed along the way, so that we can decide if we want to have 35 checkouts in the end, or by trading off efficiency with service, if we want to reduce and have less checkouts, let's say for instance 30, assuming that in 1% of the hours we will indeed have queues higher than the ones that we are expecting. So
yes, I would say that these figures for 2020 would be even with an extra difficulty, because I mean this all the situation that we are living brought new perspectives and new trends. So this is an extra challenge, but also an extra difficulty to all the process. What's your view on all of this, if you have of course the time?
For sure, Gonçalo. And let me say that by using digital twins, we don't need to test this operation with the actual demand that we are having, but we can test different settings of demand to make sure that we assess how the store can react to changes in demand. So we can, for instance, assess the impact of increasing 20% the demand, of cutting by half the demand, and in that way we can more informed take decisions concerning how to operate the stores. So the level of importance of the digital twins even increases with the situation that we are living in now. So we have applied this digital twin concerning the checkout optimization in a food retailer, where we have developed a decision support system that not only assessed the optimal number of checkouts for new stores, but also identified the existing stores that actually needed to be remodeled. But I think that the interesting part of this project was actually the way that the fact that we also assessed alternative configurations that could be integrated on the stores. We are talking about, for instance, checkouts for carts instead of chests, payment towers, the towers that allowed customers to pay individually after scanning, the existence of two exits to make sure that customers can calmly bag their products while the next customer is being attended. So many alternatives that we were able to test to define the next era of checkouts. So I would like to say, before finishing this store operation, and very rapidly, I'd like to give you just an extra example that I bring with the purpose of showing the importance of knowing the consumer in store operations planning, as Miguel was saying in the beginning. More precisely, here we are talking about deciding where to open the next stores. So in this example, we start by using past sales to understand the drivers that influence customers' choice between stores by looking into customers that at some point switched to a different store. Then we estimated what market share each store could capture by looking into past store openings, corresponding results, and by associating them to external data that allow to characterize those locations. We are talking, for instance, about population, number of supermarkets in the surroundings, and employment rate, or even more exogenous data such as number of Airbnb houses. And with that, we were able to assess the market share that new locations can have by associating also, by characterizing also these new locations. So this is a typical example where machine learning techniques play a major role. So Miguel, I pass to you again the word to go to our last topic.
Yeah, this last example is fantastic to
43 minutes so far, so just to tell you.
Yeah.
Sorry?
43 minutes so far, so we still have...
Okay. No, I was just saying that this example is fantastic to show, and picking up my first comments about data, that the beauty of the analytics is when it can works with the internal data, like transactions and so on, but also with external data that sometimes we will never think about it, like the Airbnb number of houses, how it will can help us understanding the best location for our next store. So it is fantastic because this gives a level of accuracy that was not even near before this kind of events. Going through the axis of the supply chain the ability of data analytics to provide value in supply chain is more than evident. to all of us. But it's very important to have here two ideas. For one hand, to guarantee always a holistic data analytics approach, since all the process of a retailer are linked between each other, and it's necessary to guarantee efficiency of the whole and not of a part of a process. On the other hand, is also essential, and mainly in these days, the capacity to make the process efficiency also gives to that process the need of agility and resiliences, as we know that today it's very, very important to do it, isn't it, Teresa?
Yes, indeed. And talking about agility and resilience, it is important to plan our supply chain in a way that it is both reactive and proactive. So proactive in the sense that we want to make sure that we take some decisions to make sure that we protect the supply chain against the sudden surges in demand. For instance, increasing stock in some strategic places, or even assessing the suppliers from key operations such as transportation. But supply chains should also be reactive in the sense that we should have advanced techniques and processes that ensure that we can immediately adjust forecasts, replace assortments, and also rationalize inventory when necessary. So the main message that I wanted to pass in this last topic concerns the need for holistic approaches, again, with the necessary trade-off between service and cost, always present when we are talking about efficiency, but also the need for disclosure, the overall costs per unit of stock when we are dealing with decisions concerning supply chain. And I have here a small example, and I promise to be brief. And this example is in the warehouse and concerns deciding what is the best logistic flow for each product on the retail perspective. So by looking into retailers, there are mainly two types of flows. We can have a stock policy where the stock is stocked, is stocked within the warehouse, and whenever the stores need it, it is sent to the stores. But we also have the flow-through policy, where the stock is not held in the warehouse, but instead it is sent immediately to the stores, just passing by the warehouse to make sure that we have the picking process to split it by the stores. So usually the flow-through policy is preferred over the stock policy for reliable suppliers because it carries less costs, but also have a huge impact in terms of service level. So to target this logistic flow optimization problem, we have to make sure that we are looking for the overall costs that affect that are affected by the logistic flow problem, by the logistic flow that we choose, as we can see here, where not only for the warehouse but also for the transportation and the stores, we have to specifically define not only the costs, but also the service levels that are affected by changing the logistic flow. And we see here a lot of boxes that represent the costs that we have to model, and for each one we have to develop the model that will allow us to assess the changes that will occur. So by specifically measuring the costs of both logistic flows, we are able to assess what are the best policy for each product. We have applied this approach in some different cases, and the key benefits always come from successfully quantifying the overall costs of each policy, product by product, always trading off those costs with the service level increase from changing from one policy to another. just to finish, on the left-hand side of this slide, we show here a key graph from this example, where we can, for a past scenario, we can see how the supplier service level and the warehouse service level change as we move from either, if we consider either a stock policy or a flow-through policy. So for products that have a reduced supplier service level, we see here that flow-through policy has indeed a higher warehouse service level. So the increased costs may compensate in terms of the result. But if you are talking about higher supplier service levels, then the stock policy perhaps is not the best option. So by joining this kind of information with the complete identification of the costs, we can trade off both and ending up having not only a significant cost saving, but also we can actually increase service level on the overall scenario. So last message that I want to talk is that although some years ago supply chains were seen only as a cost center, more and more, specifically we are talking about the e-commerce, we see the supply chains also as an experience driver. So in here, besides looking and working on the efficiency, we can also explore other dimensions, such as this example of application that we can see here in the e-commerce fashion, where the objective was to assess the value that each customer gives to value drivers from supply chains, such as the speed, convenience, or even premium packaging. So the objective here was trying to assess what kind of added value changes could bring a huge impact, increased impact on the customers. So let me just finish by saying that we are ready for Q&A. This was actually our last slide. But before that, let me just say that all these examples require analytics know-how. And in order to fast-track the analytics journey, we have developed a customized business analytics maturity assessment that assess and compare each company in 4 main areas: strategy and organization, customer and sales, process and operations, and people and technology. So if you want also to check out more about this analytics assessment, please just come to us. So Gonçalo.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you so much for your and Miguel, for your very comprehensive and interesting presentation. I believe there are a lot of question marks that remain on the participants' mindset, and we see that there are at least 4 questions in the Q&A box. I don't know if you can check them, and if you have the time to elaborate on those 4 questions. But the fact is that this is I think it was clear to everybody that it's a huge opportunity, but also a big challenge to develop tools for helping the decision-making process, no matter the dimension of the company, or if we're talking about the food retail or dedicated retail. It's the same principle, I would say. Do you want to elaborate on see the questions and try to answer at least in a nutshell, or?
So if I may, if you allow me.
And of course, Ignacio.
Yes, please. I'm really pleased about what you shared with us. Congratulations. This has been a very comprehensive, but also very practical approach. And have lots of my own questions, but to give the floor to the audience, I will check the questions while they were put in the chat, and I think that the 2 first one are referring to innovation, which is something that Teresa developed a little bit, and it is also one of my main concerns about this process. I mean, you know, the debate that we always have with the industry, with our suppliers, about our structure in retail sector, and how is it or not pro-innovation, pro-innovative, and how can we together improve it. So the idea is how data analytics can help innovation to succeed. And we have two very good questions in that. The first one, which is, can the assortment demand model suggest attributes to new SKUs, to new references? I understand. And can the store digital twin stimulate alternative schedules and store layouts? Well, this is it. It's exactly where the debate is. How can we do together with our suppliers, with the industry, to improve the innovation succeeds using this data analysis? I think it's a very good question. Teresa, maybe you can answer.
I can respond to the first one. The second one, I'm not sure if I understood, but I will ask Ignacio to repeat after my answer. So concerning the first question about the assortment, actually we also do that, because by looking into past sales and associating it to and associating customer preferences to attributes instead of products, we are actually understanding the importance of each attribute to the sales. So we can, one of the suggestions that we actually give is understanding what combination of attributes are missing from the assortment that can be leveraged by new contracts with different or the same suppliers. So it's a very good question, and it's something that we already leverage in our approach.
Okay.
Concerning the second one, Ignacio, could you?
The second one was about digital twin, and actually there are two questions about digital twin, the second and the fourth. And the first is, can the store digital twin stimulate alternative schedules and store layouts? And there's another question about digital twin is more general. How do you actually generate the digital twin? This is those key questions that I think they are very interesting also.
And they are also very good questions. So concerning the second one, a digital twin does not give us the best layout for the store. It allows us to test different layouts and understand what is the impact concerning the key indicators. Nevertheless, we always join the digital twins with an optimization model where we guide the digital twin concerning the scenarios that the digital twin will test. So depending on the results that the digital twin is giving to us for a given scenario, we choose what is the next scenario that it will be tested, so that we can guide the simulator to the best scenario. So just summarizing, the digital twin by itself does not give us the best solution, but by joining it with an optimization model, we can actually achieve that. Okay. Concerning the second model, so to develop digital twins, we use software that is available, such as AnyLogic, that allow us to create some objects that represent the way. Firstly, it allows us to design the stores, and then to represent how the different elements interact with each other. So we have the customers, and we associated the customers not only with an affluence to the store, but also with the decision to walk within the stores. We also design the way products are replenished in the stores. So we have to design the objects that represent all the decisions that actually make the store running in terms of operation. And we just give information from 1 year, as I said, or less, to make sure that we test how the simulator is running with that information.
Okay, thank you. That's very clear. We do have some other very clever questions about costs. Do you develop models that allow to calculate the cost to serve different clients? And this allowed me to say something that I want to say from the very beginning of the Miguel's presentation. You have been very, very direct, very, very, very specific, but also very elegant, because you haven't mentioned the, it's not only one elephant, but many elephants that are in the room, which are those companies using retail sector to collect data, and they master data collector because it's the hardcore of their business. I mean, we know that we're talking about the pure players. So this question about the costs is very relevant on this debate, or this I don't know how to say, this reflection that we have to do as a whole sector. Is data analysis and data collection only a way to compete in the future with pure players and with those who really master this business? Or is a way to develop our own model? And I think this question about the costs to serve different clients is a key question on that issue. Now, I don't know if Teresa or Miguel can answer this.
Yeah, thank you, Ignacio, and thank you for calling me such a kind words, like the elegance. No, it's true that, or let me say like that. The online players, the pure online players, to survive, they have to work with data for sure. There's no other chance than to live. But in the other hand, what we are trying here to say is the offline players or the omnichannel players will have an asset and opportunity if they accelerate the analytics to compete in equal level. So it's very important to use technology to collect data. Teresa was speaking about the layout, was speaking about assortment, speaking about, for instance, store replenishment. If an offline retailer has more data about what's happening with the product, if the product is in the warehouse, if the product is in the store, if the product is in the consumer cart, that will give us much more information to work and to make the right decisions about store experience. That is something, for instance, that the pure online retailers cannot have. So it's very important to know that the data is something that the offline retailers has and should be used to make it as an advantage to compete in this omni-channel world. And I think that but of course, the other ones, if they don't work with data, they cannot born, they cannot live, that's for sure.
Okay, thank you. It's a very good approach. Well, there's some other...
Answering, but Ignacio, just to answer to the question that asks for if LTP has models to allow to calculate the cost to serve different clients, the answer is yes, for sure. But also the other way around, he allows to calculate the cost not to serve different clients. It's not very normal to say that, but sometimes we have to define and we have to make trade-offs. So it's very important to know all the two perspectives, to serve and not to serve. Because when you decide to open a store in for instance a place, you are deciding to serve certain type of customers, not other, and so on. So it's very important to have that in mind.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Miguel. Also a very elegant answer. Huh? There's another question, also very interesting. May I know which machine learning model going to suitable for identify next best place to open new stores? It allows to talk about location, which is also very relevant, especially in these times, as Gonçalo said, that we are not only limited on the develop of the business model of every company, but on limitations that are new for retail sector, but we all think that are here to stay, at least for a while. So what can we say to answer these questions?
Okay, let me try to answer. So machine learning allows us, so we try very different models, machine learning models to assess what is the best one in each situation. But the objective of machine learning here is try to understand from the previous openings of the retailer, what were the characteristics of the places, and what was the impact in terms of the sales resulting from that opening. So by using this past information and by joining the characteristics with the result, again we can assess what is the impact of the new of opening in a new location if we can identify the characteristics of the new location, and by looking behind and understand what was the impact of that characteristic in specific. But again, similar to the digital twin, machine learning does not give us the best location. It allows us to assess different locations in terms of their potential, but again, we need an optimization layer on top to make sure that after analyzing many scenarios, we indeed choose the best one. So I never put machine learning as the answer, is part of the answer to these problems.
Okay. So thank you very much. There's another question missing, maybe the last. I don't know if we have time, Gonçalo.
We still have 5 minutes because we have 10 minutes of delay, so it's okay. 5 minutes.
Okay, so there's a quite long question, but also with a very interesting reflection on maturity, like Gonçalo, like Miguel developed answering Gonçalo's question, and may I read it because it's very, very well presented. I found the idea about analytics maturity model very interesting. I believe sometimes people and companies want to go from a no analytic organization to an advanced analytics organization, implementing the most sophisticated techniques and algorithms. I think it should be a journey that may take time and start with the basics, for example, descriptive and so on, until you reach the predictive and perspective level. What is your view on this? And how do you help companies reach the necessary maturity again, Miguel?
I will start, then I pass to Teresa.
1 minute each.
I think it's a very interesting question. Let me just say that, of course, you are right. We cannot jump from the beginning to the end. But as I told you in the beginning, the important is to be aware of the importance of the analytics, and then to do this journey. But Teresa, please go ahead.
Yeah,
Gonçalo interrupted me with 1 minute and I blocked. I'm very obedient, very elegant, as you said. I blocked.
I will not look into the watch then, and let me add, Jeff, that I agree with you, Miguel. It all starts with assessing the level of maturity of the companies, because when we are talking about analytics, we are actually talking about the vast world, and we need to make sure that we understand the place where the companies are, and that place can change from one area to the other. And that's why I presented here in the last slide the base analytics assessment that allow us to do that. But anyway, in the end, we need to design what is the journey to increase the maturity of the company, which may pass by different steps, from making sure that we can train the human resources of the company. We can strengthen the team with a different set of profiles, more analytical, and also that these teams, that they have the necessary guidance to switch from more manual processes to more analytical ones. So I would say that the first step is always to assess the current level of maturity, and then to design the journey that allow us to change to a more analytical mindset, let's say.
Thank you, Teresa. Thank you, and thank you so much. I mean, we are 10 minutes delay. Well, it's not bad. It's nowadays 10 minutes. It's not really a delay. I want to thank you, Teresa. Can you show us the last slide? The one where, yes, thank you. Well, to the audience, thank you for your participation. If you want to have questions, you've got the emails of Teresa and Miguel. You can use them for free. I would say that thank you, Ignacio, for your participation and also for this cooperation, the first of many, I'm sure about it. And I will visit you shortly in Madrid, and the same, I will expect you in Lisbon for sooner also. Let me say that, of course, we have, as an association of retailers, 165 associates and counting. We have the privilege to have contacts with very, very good companies and suppliers. And of course, don't see this as a commercial approach of APED, but a cooperation with the good companies that are present in the market. LTP gave us the chance to share knowledge and to interact in such a very interesting subject. I wish you all the best for your company and for this process and for your analytics system. Let me also salute Miguel for the approach, and Teresa also for the very comprehensive presentation. Ignacio, I'll give you the famous last words for you. We are now today we are living a new normal also in Portugal, because the government just released a few measures for the whole country starting in next Monday. I'm going to concentrate on these measures, and I have to speak with the journalists, so you can see that like you, I'm living under pressure. But Ignacio, thank you, Teresa, thank you, Miguel. Ignacio, the floor is yours for the famous last words.
Oh, thank you. It's a privilege to talk to you all. It's been very great to see how do we share not only the daily work, like Gonçalo said, but a common approach to the needs of our sector. And I think really Miguel and Teresa, because it has been a very, very interesting presentation, allowed us to talk about new things in the new normal, I must say, which is our duty in the next month. Okay, thank you very much. It's been a great honor and pleasure to be with you this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
See you all.